Welcome to Not What I Thought. I'm Erica.
I'm Yolanda.
And I'm Becca. We're therapists, entrepreneurs, and perfectly imperfect humans.
We first met during a business owner retreat where we became fast friends because we're not afraid to be real and ask the hard questions about life. What we thought it would be like, how messy it actually is, and the courage it takes to create the life we want.
We continue to build our friendship and personal growth through our own retreats. We find the deepest connection in sharing our struggles and finding what we have in common rather than what divides us.
We're breaking down hard topics on our podcast and together have conversations about what it takes to find real talk, real support, and real rest for professional women. We're glad you're here. Join us on your favorite podcast platform.
So, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. And today we are so excited that Angela is joining us with her Not What I Thought story. So, hi, Angela. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. What's your story? What's your Not What I Thought story, Angela?
Yeah, not what I thought. I thought I'd talk today about female friendships and how important they are and how we've, through our female exploration of life, they become so important through our lives, but also what it feels like when it all goes wrong. And so, yeah, that's what I'd like to talk about today.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just get into it?
Wow, go for it.
There's a story here, I know.
Well, female friendships, my background is in engineering. And so I worked predominantly, I went to school with all guys. I was the only girl in my graduating class in geological engineering. And going to work, it was predominantly men. And so having a woman in the room was, it's always different for me because I can only see out of my own eyes. So if I see mostly men, that's kind of my environment. And seeing another woman is kind of even strange to me, even though I is one. You stop, you kind of forget that you are also different. So coming from that background, I had an international career. I decided after I had my third child that it was time to come home. And we came to back to Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, Canada, and decided I wanted my kids to be Canadian. So let's just settle in and see how the ride goes. So when the kids start going to school, that's really when you form a lot of friendships because you're getting to know people through the kids and their friends. And it just happens that, you might actually like the parents. So that doesn't always happen. But I was really blessed with a strong group of women who were the mothers of the friends of my kids. And we really had a great time putting the kids through elementary school and supporting each other and being on the SCC together and, baking cookies and making costumes and all of that you do in a female community. And throughout all of this, the kids are growing older, they're getting more independent, and those friendships start to change. And I think what I thought was that we would be this girl band forever. And what happened was that life circumstances change, the children change, we relate to each other differently. And today, I'm on a sort of a new friendship exploration time of not really, I think in my personal situation, the breakup, I'm going to say it like a breakup, was a little bit traumatic because it also happened during COVID. And I think a lot of polarizing thoughts about COVID happened in the group. And then, people worried about this or that. And it's probably similar to what you guys deal with in respect to politics. They can be really bipolar. And when someone believes something that you don't, it's like really hard to scramble to find that middle ground again. And, we really tried. There was a lot of, and COVID wasn't really the biggest thing. It was sort of a factor, but there was, I would consider one of the women one of my best friends, and she was going through a difficult time. I was there for her in terms of probably above and beyond, because that's what you do for your friends. And then when the situation was over, she, I felt like she showed her values that didn't align with mine. And so just that difference really put a thorn in the friendship group. So I did definitely play a part in it in terms of I just said I can't, these values don't align with mine, so we can't spend any time together. It ended up like my husband was saying this person can't come into our house anymore. So it was one of those, I support my spouse 100%. So that's just the way it's going to be. And in the end, that sort of effectively breaks up your friendship group. And it's almost like a death. It's almost like grieving because you realize, you had such a good time. I think your whole desires are that you grow old together. And female friendships almost, they have a danger of taking over even the relationship you have with your spouse. Because the one that you have with your spouse is, you're raising kids and it's hard some days, and you're just sometimes just trying to survive. Whereas your girlfriends, you'll often confide, maybe even tell things that you wouldn't tell your spouse because you need that venting, and that helps you get through the hard times as a family unit. So it's interesting, that when things don't turn out, that you really have to figure out what is your new normal. And it's realizing that the grieving that you're doing is grieving for something that actually never would be. You're just hoping, you're wishing for this fairy tale thing that actually isn't reality. So it's when I realized that I kind of snapped myself out of, this person isn't who you thought she was. So that's okay. You had a period of time in your life where it was it was wonderful. We had, a really good friend group. We supported each other through everything. And then now it's just changed, and that's okay. And you don't have to worry about what they think, what other people think. Um, and I know when we initially broke up, there was a lot of, she's talking to external people about her view on what happened. And you have to also drop that. Like, it's okay if other people think something that isn't maybe true to you. There's no way you can control the narrative. So part of that is just shedding it and moving on. And that's really hard. I never really thought I would have to do that with friends. You think you're going to go through grief with a death or something like that, but this was like a death of a relationship.
There's so much wisdom in what you just said,
Yeah.
Angela. So much. I'm remembering a story that I shared on another episode of the podcast about a friend breakup and the grief of that. And I had many of these same kind of expectations that while the friendship was really good, I had thought these are people that I'm going to know my whole life, right? We're raising our kids together, and we're going to know their kids' kids, and like it's
Yeah.
this real grief in realizing, oh, that stuff is never going to happen. And but it's this ambiguous loss because it's like there is, yes, the loss of the friendship. I don't have that person in my life anymore. And then there also is this other layer of all the dreams that I had and the expectations that I had that I also now have lost.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the biggest grief, kind of that. But then there's the whole pullback, and it's like, that's not going to happen. So don't grieve something that you've had in your imagination.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's grief. Um, I think what's standing out for me, um, in, the three of us are couples therapists, and I think about the ways in which we might romanticize a romantic relationship. And what's really standing out to me is kind of the implicit thoughts about what female friendships were going to be that we don't even necessarily know that we carry with us until it's not what we thought it was going to be, right? And that we don't necessarily have unpack or explore outside of the context of like, this isn't working. What's going on?
I love the connection that you're making there too, because there's like, if you think about a romantic relationship, we have these sort of expected stages of like, you're dating. It's very normal in a romantic relationship that we have a conversation where we're clarifying, like, what are we and what are our expectations and commitments to each other? And like, are we exclusive? And are, like all these things. And with friendships, we typically don't have those kind of explicit conversations. And then it leaves, I think that's maybe part of why they can feel really intense sometimes, or where there can be a lot of anxiety about like, do you want the same things that I want out of this relationship? And then something falls apart and you go, well, I had all these expectations, and you realize the other person didn't have those same expectations of you, or whatever.
Or you didn't know each other the way that you
thought that you did.
Yeah.
And then we also don't have the same kind of I don't know, language or expectation around a breakup, right? You say I broke up with my partner, or I'm getting divorced or something, and there's all of this, there's books written about, there's all this narrative, there's all this support that comes around, but it's like, well, I had a falling out with a friend, and we don't have the same kind of, the rest of the community knows what to do to support you. But
Yeah.
it's no feel of a loss.
Yeah. And I think, I tried to care for the other women in our group by saying, because I knew my partner, my husband did not want this person in our lives anymore. I said, and I even said it to the person, like, I will happily see you in group activities, but you're never coming over to our house again, unfortunately. And I told the other ladies, there's no sides here. You're welcome to be friends with her. Like, it's okay with me. It's just that I can't do an event at my house and include her out of respect for my husband. But that's still hard. I think there's just so much like interpretation of what happened among our friends that it's the real reason gets lost. And everyone has their own narrative about it. I even heard from another friend like um, that I broke up with her because of our differing COVID beliefs, but that has nothing to do with it and more to do with my husband's reaction to things. That really, I had to put a hard stop to it, but I don't feel like I should explain it to everybody and their dog. Like at the bottom of it all, I need to make sure my husband's my priority, and he's going to be the one that I honor and make sure he's comfortable. And whatever happens, happens.
I love the generosity and the explicit communication with the rest of the group. Like, there's no sides here, because I that's what we do as human beings, right? When there's a rupture, the people around us want to kind of identify good guy, good bad guy kind of thing,
Or try to fix it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that too. And it's like, I can't be fixed.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate you. This is, part of my personal work that I keep coming back to. Like, other people are going to have some narrative around me that, one, I don't think is true, and two, I don't think is fair. and that's life. That's something that I am regularly kind of reminding myself of. Like,
It's
yeah.
hard.
Yeah,
That part is hard when there's other people thinking something that isn't true to you.
Mhm.
But there's not enough words, there's not enough time, there's not enough airspace to try to clear it up.
And all of the time
So
that would require.
yeah, and you don't want to put your energy towards that.
Mhm.
There's a time where you need to you can get lost in all of that. And I did for months. But at some point you have to like move on and you have to look forward and start building again. And partly it means kind of letting go of the whole group
Mhm.
because there's so many different narratives and it's just a little bit complicated. Like it's like this big ball of yarn. And it's like maybe it's better just to start fresh.
Yeah, so
And
people are
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And maintain the good parts of each of your relationships,
Mhm.
knowing that maybe you'll never be together as a big group again.
So what's the new exploration look like, Angela? You said that, you're kind of trying things on in a different way now.
Yeah, so during COVID, of course, we were all shut away. I built a digital business during that time. And so I meet a lot of great people online, kind of like you three, but then you never see each other in real life. And I realized after a while that most of my friends were on my computer, and I don't even know how tall people are. I don't know really what they look like from their boobs down, like there was just there's a whole part of them that I'm missing. So I made um, I guess a conscious step this year to meet more people in real life. And so that meant, joining a local Facebook meetup group, women's support group. Um, I joined a women's network that I decided to go on the board. So it's like I attended a few meetings and I thought, let's just jump all in on this. So now I'm on the board and I'm helping plan things and getting to know people. I'm at the age where I kind of need to see people multiple times and see their name written down and match the name to the face a few times before I actually get it. So, going to the same meetings and seeing a lot of the people, I'm starting to get it now. So, closing out this year, I've really made some really nice local connections. And I'm seeing that, in my social feeds that there's more local people contacting me to do speeches or to, do something at their company, do a lunch and learn, or just people commenting on my post and supporting me in whatever I'm doing. So, it takes a while, and people in business don't tend to be as old as I am. So my friend group is becoming younger just because of that. But it's fun, and it's just last month we did a party where you had to come dressed as your favorite Barbie, and I still have the nail polish on from it. I don't do nail polish, but I thought since I had to do this, I'll just keep touching it up until it's probably going to get like 10 feet thick before I decide to, scrape it off. But, it's just those in real life events that give you that extra thing of connection. So, do I have a brand new friend group where we're just like linking arms and skipping down the street? Not yet. But, we're building based on our common interest of business. And we're supporting each other because we know how hard it is to put ourselves out. So it's a little bit of a different focus. But that saying of, you have friends for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, or something like that. I'm really starting to see the truth in that, the wisdom in that. And yeah, enjoying it, trying to just figure it out.
You just named something that I was thinking as you were talking, like before, the foundation of the friendships was kids and being in the same season of raising kids. And now you're building these friendships that are more based on business, and that piece. What are you noticing about, it's different, but what are you noticing as you're kind of laying the foundation of these new friendships on this different platform, I guess.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, they're younger. People are
Mhm.
typically younger. Yeah, I not a whole lot of difference in terms of because we're searching for that common ground. We're searching for like what makes us similar. And
Mhm.
it's, you do have to find that in terms of people that who stretch you, people who have the same interests as you. And, how they say surround yourself with people better than you so that you always have something to strive for. All of that is true. Whereas, also noticing that you might be the person someone is striving for as well. So yeah, it's just sort of a whole new world of discovery, and I haven't quite figured it out yet, but it's been really fun, and it's been sort of the total acceptance of this new phase, and that it's okay, and that I'm okay. I think when you come through the period of grief about that you sometimes have the feeling like it's your fault or there's something wrong with you or what did I do? And yeah, there's of course things that I could have done better, but this is also um and before I go on there, it's important to close out that chapter. And the way that I did it for myself and the way I tell people in my digital community to do it whenever you've come through a hard thing is to sit down and write everything that you got from it, everything that is a blessing to you today because of it. And there's so many blessings. There's so many things that I got from that friend group. And I've come to the point of like when someone says, "Oh, how is that person?" It's like, I haven't spoken to them for a while, so I actually don't know. I'm okay saying that instead of, bringing up all the hurt. It doesn't hurt as much anymore. It's just I'm so thankful for them and I wish them well. And I'm doing my thing and it's okay. And I think when you close out a chapter with gratitude and appreciation, it's just a springboard and it allows you to present your best self to the next phase. I think that's really important.
Mm.
And I don't remember like I was saying before I go on, I'll do this, but now I can't remember what I was going on to.
I just
Is this an age thing?
I would
Perimenopause?
love what you said about closing the chapter and having some gratitude and reflection on like what did I get from this.
Mhm.
Um, it occurs to me last night we were sitting around together and I was talking about the end of a friendship
Mhm.
and a different one,
Mhm.
and that I came to this place of being like, well, whatever happened, I am so glad that I was friends with that person. I'm grateful for the time that we spent, for what I learned from them, for what I experienced, and there is some sadness around the end, but like that doesn't have to shadow or like overshadow or recolor everything that happened before that was good and beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think also when you accept some of the blame for it, because of it takes two to tango, even though you think you're right, you know, there's got to be some element of why someone had an adverse reaction, right? So there's the acceptance of responsibility. There's trying to find out what was that learning that I need to take into future relationships. And, for me, it was I was too all in terms of just trying to be that person's really best friend in the group. I don't think I cognizantly tried. I think it was, but then when things went wrong, it was like it was big and it didn't have to be that big. So I think that's part of my responsibility for myself is just maintaining a little bit of perspective.
Mhm. Are you consciously? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. No.
Oh, I was just gonna say I feel like I have a story I'm telling myself about your story in that I appreciated earlier hearing about your engineering background, and my husband's an engineer, so I have an observational stance into female interactions in that world. And I think that is quite hard. And so the story I'm telling myself is that it was a struggle to figure out how to connect to other women. And then when you had a built-in place to connect to other women, it felt so like maybe you were craving that so much. And it felt
Yeah.
so that like, oh, I finally have this thing that I didn't know could exist. And I love that you've gained some perspective that I can still have connection with women. That just might not have to be my whole world or in reaction to previous experience in exploring like relationships, friendships.
Yeah. And thank you for pointing that out because I think that's very true that all probably from high school onwards, I didn't have a really good, strong female friend group because I was surrounded by men. And I do consider a lot of men really good friends, but there's always, especially when we were younger, when the guys started getting girlfriends, there's a signal to me, okay, I have to make sure the girlfriend knows I'm okay. I'm not gonna steal your man. And that we do have kind of like a platonic relationship that I am not a threat to you. So you're always a bit of a step back. You're also never a bro, like so it is a weird place to stand in the engineering world that you have to be really mindful of your connections, that you don't create issues just because of who you are. But yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just curious about, so I'm hearing kind of a Goldilocks story, right? There's the bro skis over here in engineer land, and then there's the, deep, 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 super intimate mom connections. And now I'm hearing you're like there's this different perspective or a different way of kind of building relationship. Is that something that you find yourself consciously aware of as you're spending time and getting to know these ladies that you're connecting with now?
Um, no, I think I'm just going into it with a open heart. Um, I was I was at a conference this weekend, and I was there kind of as a mentor, sitting at a table, being someone's big sister. If you had a question, let's talk about it. One of the young women asked me, who can I trust? And I'm just like, oh, big question. But I would go into the world trusting everybody. And that's a big, tall order. There's, of course, little nuances in there. If you have a spidey sense that you can't trust someone, then, listen to it. But when it's, all even playing field, just feel like what does it feel like to fully trust someone compared to they have to prove themselves to me that I can trust them. Like one is totally open and and looking for that potential in an amazing connection. And the other one is like, prove yourself to me first before I open my dungeon doors. I would prefer to live open. And so that's where I'm building my female relationships now when I go out is like, I'm open. I am going to share whatever. I'm a little bit of a weird filter coming from the engineering world. I sometimes call weird things out. But that's me, and I've learned with age that the best thing you can be is to be yourself because that's the biggest gift we have is to be full of personality and be unapologetic in terms of this is what I like, this is and but to also accept everyone else for their personality. So I'm really enjoying sort of the more mature look at friendship. And yeah, when you're friends with other business people or entrepreneurs, everyone's super busy. So we get it as well that we don't get to, hang around in pajama nights and all that stuff. It's like we're going to connect when we can in between meetings. And that's perfectly fine with me too.
Well, Angela, just a little bit of a backstory with our friendship is that, we met each other in
Through
through a business coaching group, which means that we're all business owners. And yeah, and so it's, I think that has turned out to be a connection that I wasn't expecting, and I don't know what my life would look like if I didn't have it.
That's so
And
nice.
yeah, I hope that for you as well as you.
Yeah. And I think, I'm building that in terms of when I see the other ladies put themselves out on social media, it's like you're going to hype them. You're going to like, you know,
Yeah.
I I want to do that for my fellow entrepreneurs. Is like I'm going to comment on their stuff saying everyone needs to know this or way to go, or love your shoes, anything that makes them know that they're being seen, they're being heard, and my network is going to see them because I want everyone to succeed. The pie is endless. So I'm not going to just carve off my corner and put up my walls. I just want to do this with a bunch of people. And I know how hard it is to put yourself out there. So to make a reel, oh my God, I'm going to celebrate anyone that makes it real because I know how hard it is. So I think like having the same struggles, having the same internal doubts and doing it anyway needs to be celebrated.
I'm thinking about a conversation that we had with another guest around life transitions and like so excited to see what's happening next. And like also relating that to your stories of friendship here and like at different phases in our life and with different people, we get to like different parts of us come forward, right? Like there's
Yeah.
partly because you've changed over the years since your kids were really small, and first build connection with these people, but also like you have different things in common with the new people. And so there's different parts of me that need to come forward. And I think there's space that we can celebrate and enjoy all of that.
Yeah.
I'm in a different phase of my life and I'm exploring different things, and that doesn't have to mean anything about what happened before. I can just enjoy what is here now. And like lean into that with openness.
Yeah. And it goes to the changing interest. Like some of the business women that I'm becoming really good friends with, we don't even talk about our children.
Yeah.
So like I don't even know their children's names. They've maybe said it, but it's not enough that my old brain can absorb it yet. And so it is a totally different focused conversation.
I actually was I'm wondering how different our relationship, the three of us, would be if we were like moms in a PTA.
Yeah.
Oh
versus
yeah,
the way that we
interesting thought.
met.
Well, first that wouldn't happen because our kids are all such
Chronologically,
different
no,
ages.
chronologically, no. But yeah.
In a different
what I'm saying.
context.
Yeah.
Different context. That's
Yeah. So
fascinating.
yeah.
It's fascinating to think of friendship through that perspective, through that lens. So,
Yeah.
You've inspired our dinner conversation.
Yeah, right. I'm thinking back. Yeah, sure.
Well, and I guess you don't have to let go of the people who you had that parental relationship with, but it's really nice to, keep your different circles and celebrate that. Hopefully at the end of our lives, we're full of different circles of friends.
Actually, Angela, as you're talking, I'm thinking, because I'm guessing that we are a similar age, and I am thinking of the female friendships that I had when my kids were younger with their friends and stuff, and I'm thinking of like where we are in our there are only a couple of people that I was friends with in this mom capacity when my kids were young, that we still have a close connection. So it, our conversation together here has me thinking about that as well. And kind of, I wonder if it's developmentally appropriate that happens.
Well, and that just also gives me a little bit of comfort that even if this didn't have to have such a bomb blast of a,
So dramatic, yeah.
ending, that it might have happened anyway, like,
Yeah,
and, I don't know what's good about that. I don't know. I learned a lot from the bomb blast. So it's always good. But if I had the choice, I probably would have done it your way.
I don't know that there's a better or worse bomb blasting or attrition, you know? It's still a death in its own way.
Yeah, and it's just a different phase, and I think it natural that, we have different foci,
Yeah.
as I should say.
Spoken like a true
If
engineer.
we're being technical about it.
Spoken like a true engineer. That's great. Well, is there anything more that feels important that we need? Angela, what does your heart know to be true about adult female friendships?
My heart knows to be true that it's the most important to be yourself, to be true to you, and through our conversation that it's natural for friendships to change and to accept it, and not to push against it, but just accept it and keep your eye on joy.
How about you, Erica? What's your heart true?
I think Angela took it right out of my brain. Very similar. My heart knows that being able to experiment in relationships in different ways, in different contexts, in different points in life is really important. And that's going to look different, and they can hold different value or charge or anything like that. All of that is okay.
Does your heart know?
I know, I'm thinking. My heart is thinking. What a rich conversation. Actually, what I was initially thinking of is I grew up in a military home. So I didn't have friendships like my kids have friendships because we stayed in the same place as my kids were growing up, right?
Right.
When I was growing up, we moved quite a bit. And so I think there's a little part of me that always anticipates there being a loss of a friendship, right? Or a distance or what have you. And saying that also makes me appreciate the friendships that I have.
Yeah.
Differently.
Yeah.
How about you, Becca?
My heart knows that this is the richness of what it is to be human, the complexity of these relationships, and there is no, all of the goodness and the richness that we get out of our friendships and relationships come inherent with the risk that sometimes things go sideways and we lose them. And I think that accepting the parts that are less comfortable is just part of sort of the price that we pay for being able to experience the depth and the richness. And in my estimation, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking I think when it turned the corner for me was when I learned about the duality of emotions. So when I realized I hurt so much because I loved so much, and to celebrate the fact that there was love, no matter what the stories that the other person has, for me, it was love. And so my grief is a sign of that. So it's like the higher level appreciation of what that friendship really was to me.
Wow.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think you
Mic drop.
find myself a little
Another one.
emotional there, and that'll be part of our conversation at dinner too.
Aw.
Angela, if people want to connect with you, if they want to find out more about you, what's the best place for them to find you?
I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so you can just look under Angela Jamieson, and my website, which I haven't set up correctly, so you need the www. I don't know how to do that. Where you just type in angelajamieson.com and it gives an error. You need the www. But there you can find my latest offers. The way of thinking that I was talking about, the duality of emotions, that's what I teach people now through my relaxed productivity courses and memberships. And that's to help busy professionals with the little tweaks in their mind so that they stay relaxed no matter how busy they are. And, by staying relaxed, you're actually more productive because you're not spinning your wheels. So I'm also an author. I'm also a publisher. So I am starting a cohort for creating books. And so people can sign up there as well. So yeah, my website or LinkedIn are the best places to find me.
Yeah.
Doing some great stuff out there in the world, Angela. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm a little crazy, but I'll settle down one of these days. Thank you so much for just having me. And I feel like we were sitting around a table having a girls' night in.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us around our
Yes.
table.